The world has been in a few precarious situations throughout history. There's been plenty of situations where if just one thing would have gone differently, our planet probably wouldn't be here today. If you're now ready, here are 7 times the world almost came to an end. Number 7. Chernobyl natural disaster. Have you ever heard of the catastrophic nuclear accident that occurred on April 26, 1986 at the number 4 reactor in the Chernobyl nuclear power plant? An explosion and subsequent fire at the reactor released large amounts of radioactive particles into the atmosphere, which spread over much of Western USSR and Europe. The accident is considered the worst nuclear disaster in history and is one of only 2 nuclear energy accidents rated at the highest level security of 7 by the International Nuclear Event Scale, the other being the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disaster in 2011. Do you know how many people died? The disaster killed at least 31 people outright, with estimates of the total death toll ranging from 4,000 to over 200,000 due to radiation exposure. It prompted the Soviet Union to issue a rare public admission of fault, and it led to a major reevaluation of nuclear power programs around the world. Many safety improvements were made as a result of the disaster, and the nuclear industry's reputation suffered greatly. The sad thing was that the disaster also had a lasting impact on the environment and public health in the affected region, and the area surrounding the plant remains uninhabitable to this day. Number 6. Eruption of Mount Tambora. Trust me, you're never safe when there are volcanoes. The 1815 eruption of Mount Tambora, also known as the Great Tambora Eruption, was one of the largest volcanic eruptions in recorded history. It occurred on the island of Sumbawa in the Dutch East Indies, now Indonesia, and was the largest eruption in the last 1,300 years. The eruption caused widespread destruction and is estimated to have killed tens of thousands of people. It also had a significant impact on the global climate, leading to what is known as the Year Without a Summer in 1816. It was caused by the collapse of the volcano's summit, which released an enormous amount of ash, pumice, and other volcanic debris into the atmosphere. The ash and debris caused widespread darkness and cooling, leading to crop failures and food shortages. It contributed a significant decrease in global temperatures, which led to cooler temperatures and unusual weather patterns in many parts of the world. Number 5. Smallpox. Smallpox was one of the most feared diseases in human history and is believed to have been responsible for hundreds of millions of deaths over the past 3,000 years. It was characterized by a fever and the appearance of a distinct rash on the skin, which consisted of raised bumps that eventually turned into fluid-filled pustules. These pustules would eventually crust over and form scabs, which would eventually fall off, leaving scars on the skin. But what made this disease particularly devastating? The answer is simple. It had a high fatality rate, especially in young children and people with compromised immune systems. Well, what's worse than that? It was a highly contagious and could be transmitted through close contact with an infected person or through contact with contaminated objects. Despite the development of a vaccine in the late 18th century, smallpox continued to be a major public health threat until the 1970s, when an aggressive global vaccination campaign led to the eradication of the disease. Today, smallpox is considered to be the first infectious disease to have been successfully eradicated through vaccinations. However, the virus still exists in laboratory stockpiles, and there are concerns that it could be used as a bioterrorism weapon. Number 4. Spanish flu. Also known as the 1918 flu pandemic, the Spanish flu was a global influenza pandemic that occurred in 1918 to 1919. It was caused by an unusually virulent strain of the H1N1 influenza virus and is estimated to have infected 1/3 of the world's population and killed tens of millions of people. Believe it or not, it was one of the deadliest pandemics in human history and is believed to have caused more deaths than World War I. It was first identified in Spain in May 1918 and quickly spread to other parts of Europe, North America, and the rest of the world. The virus was highly contagious and could be transmitted through the air, making it difficult to contain. The virus had a major impact on global population and life expectancy, with the average lifespan in the United States decreasing by about a decade as a result of the pandemic. Number 3. The Carrington event. What's a force of nature you won't totally expect? A solar storm. The Carrington event was a powerful geomagnetic solar storm that occurred in September 1859. It was named after Richard Carrington, the English astronomer who observed the event and was the first to identify the connection between solar storms and geomagnetic disturbances. The cause for the event was a massive solar flare which sent a massive burst of solar particles toward Earth and triggered a powerful geomagnetic storm. This event caused widespread disruption to telegraph communication systems, with many telegraph lines malfunctioning or catching fire. But what the bright side is, as many people would say, was that it caused aurora borealis, or northern lights, to be visible as far south as the Caribbean and the Sahara Desert. While the Carrington event had a relatively small impact on human society due to the limited use of electronic communication at the time, it is thought that a similar event occurring today would have much more severe consequences, given our reliance on technology. As a result, the Carrington event is often cited as a cautionary tale and is used to study the potential impacts of solar storms on modern society. Number 2. Shanxi earthquake. Earthquakes, they're powerful, they're frightening, and they can leave a lasting impact on your life. The Shanxi earthquake was a catastrophic event that occurred in the Shanxi province of China in 1556. It is one of the deadliest earthquakes in history, with an estimated death toll of 830,000 people. The earthquake struck during the reign of the Ming Dynasty and affected several neighboring provinces, including Shanxi, Henan, Gansu, Hebei, Shandong, Hubei, Hunan, and Jiangsu. It caused significant damage to buildings in Beijing, Chengdu, and Shanghai and is believed to have caused widespread destruction across a large area of China. The reason for the quake is thought to have been caused by a fault in the Earth's crust, which released a massive amount of energy. At the time, many people in the affected area lived in yaodongs, which are man-made caves and loose cliffs. These caves were vulnerable to collapse in the event of an earthquake, which likely contributed to the high death toll. Now, know this. If a similar earthquake were to occur today, the consequences would likely be much more severe due to the greater number of people living in urban areas and the higher density of buildings. Number 1. 1983 Soviet nuclear false alarm incident. The 1983 Soviet nuclear false alarm incident was an event that occurred on September 26, 1983, when a Soviet early warning satellite detected the launch of a United States Minuteman intercontinental ballistic missile, or ICBM. The satellite reported the launch of a single ICBM and then, a few minutes later, reported the launch of 5 more missiles. This led to a high level of alarm within the Soviet military, as it was thought that the United States was launching a nuclear attack against the Soviet Union. Lieutenant Colonel Stanislav Petrov, the duty officer at the Soviet Union's Serbakov-15 early warning station, was responsible for evaluating the report and deciding whether to launch a retaliatory attack. Petrov doubted the accuracy of the satellite report, as he is believed that a full-scale nuclear attack by the United States would involve the launch of many more missiles. He therefore decided not to report the missiles launched to his superiors and instead waited to see if any further missile launches were detected. It was later discovered that the satellite had reported a false alarm, and Petrov's decision not to report the missile launches likely prevented a nuclear war. Petrov's actions were recognized and honored in the years following the incident, and he is considered a hero for his role in averting a potential global disaster. If there's a man you should thank why you're alive today, I believe gratitude is due to Lieutenant Colonel Stanislav Petrov. Throughout history, there have been many moments where the world has come close to the brink of disaster. Whether it be a solar storm, an earthquake, or a nuclear false alarm, humanity has always found a way to survive and thrive in the face of crisis. What do you think about this? Tell me in the comments section below.